Hello and welcome to Prepspot. In this video, we are going to know about a comprehensive analysis of a major turning point in the ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict, a development that has significant implications for regional stability and global geopolitics. On 11th March 2025, Ukraine accepted a 30-day ceasefire proposal from the United States, a move that came after high-stakes negotiations in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, and which was immediately followed by the resumption of US military aid. This series of events marks a critical juncture in a conflict that has been dragging since Russia's annexation of Crimea in 2014 and escalated dramatically with the full-scale invasion on 24 February 2022. Since then, Ukraine has received over $69 billion in military assistance from the United States, including advanced weapons, munitions, and critical training programs. However, on 28 February 2025, a very public disagreement between US President Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky led to the suspension of military aid and intelligence sharing, a suspension that left Ukraine at a strategic disadvantage and forced European allies to scramble for additional support. This Oval Office blow-up, as it was described in the media, was rooted in differing views on how best to end the conflict. Trump was pushing for a rapid resolution, while Zelensky was determined to secure lasting security guarantees. After 8 hours of intense negotiations in Saudi Arabia, US Secretary of State Marco Rubio and National Security Advisor Mike Waltz brokered a ceasefire proposal that Ukraine finally accepted at approximately 11:18 PDT on 11 March 2025. Under this proposal, Ukraine agreed to an immediate, interim 30-day ceasefire with the option to extend it by mutual agreement, provided that the Russian Federation also accepts and concurrently implements the ceasefire. This agreement represents not only a hopeful step toward reducing the daily toll of violence but also a strategic recalibration of military and diplomatic efforts in the region. In response, the United States announced that it would immediately lift the suspension on intelligence sharing and resume security assistance, including the prompt delivery of about $1 billion in previously approved equipment and the potential for an additional $3.8 billion in aid. This resumption of military aid underscores the significant leverage that the US holds in shaping the course of the conflict, while also highlighting the complex interplay between military support and diplomatic initiatives. To better understand the importance of these developments, let's delve into the background and context of the conflict. The tensions between Russia and Ukraine have deep historical roots, but the modern phase of conflict began in 2014 with Russia's annexation of Crimea, a move that was widely condemned by the international community and led to significant sanctions and geopolitical tensions. The situation escalated further on 24 February 2022 when Russia launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine, resulting in tens of thousands of casualties and the displacement of millions of people. The humanitarian crisis that followed reshaped the security landscape in Europe, prompting unprecedented international support for Ukraine. The United States, as one of the largest providers of military aid to Ukraine, has played a crucial role in bolstering the country's defenses against Russian aggression. Over the years, this aid has been a linchpin of Ukraine's resistance, enabling the country to hold off a powerful adversary through both military and economic means. However, the dynamic changed dramatically in early 2025. The public disagreement between President Trump and President Zelensky on 28 February 2025 marked a significant setback in the coordination of US support for Ukraine. This dispute led to the suspension of vital military aid and intelligence sharing, a decision that not only weakened Ukraine's immediate military capabilities but also created a vacuum that threatened to tip the balance of power in favor of Russian forces. It is against this backdrop that the recent negotiations in Saudi Arabia become so critical. In Jeddah, after more than 8 hours of intensive talks, both the United States and Ukraine reached a joint decision that signaled a renewed commitment to pursuing peace, or at least a temporary de-escalation of hostilities. The acceptance of the 30-day ceasefire is intended to provide a window during which humanitarian aid can be delivered more safely and where both sides can engage in more substantive talks aimed at a long-term resolution. One of the most notable aspects of the ceasefire proposal is its conditional nature. The agreement stipulates that the ceasefire must be implemented concurrently by both Ukraine and Russia. In essence, the success of this initiative hinges on the Russian Federation's response. As of now, Russia has not yet officially accepted the ceasefire, and US officials have clearly stated that the ball is now in Russia's court. This pending decision adds a layer of uncertainty to the situation, as past ceasefires in the region have often proven fragile. The diplomatic community is now closely watching for any indication from Russia, with Trump's special envoy, Steve Witkoff, expected to travel to Moscow in the coming days to present the proposal and seek a definitive response. The resumption of US military aid is equally significant. Since the inception of the conflict, the United States has provided a staggering total of $69.2 billion in military assistance to Ukraine, with a substantial portion of that support coming in the form of advanced weaponry and critical intelligence. The temporary suspension of aid on 3 March 2025 was a clear signal of the internal disagreements within the US administration regarding the optimal approach to ending the conflict. With the recent ceasefire agreement, the US has not only resumed the flow of aid but also sent a strong message about its continued commitment to Ukraine's defense. The immediate delivery of $1 billion in equipment, coupled with the prospect of an additional $3.8 billion, represents a significant boost to Ukraine's military capabilities and a clear demonstration of the US's strategic priorities in the region. This aid is being provided under mechanisms such as the Presidential Drawdown Authority, PDA, and the Ukraine Security Assistance Initiative, USAI, which allow the US to rapidly deploy resources in support of its allies. The implications of these developments are far-reaching. Should Russia ultimately agree to the ceasefire, the 30-day period could provide a much-needed respite from the relentless violence that has defined the conflict over the past several years. For civilians in Ukraine, a ceasefire could mean safer access to humanitarian aid, the possibility of evacuations from conflict zones, and a brief pause that might allow for the reconstruction of essential services. For military strategists and policymakers, the ceasefire offers a chance to recalibrate their approaches, assess the impact of resumed US aid, and potentially open new avenues for negotiations aimed at a more permanent resolution. However, the situation remains highly fluid, and the success of these efforts will depend largely on the willingness of all parties to adhere to the ceasefire and engage constructively in subsequent talks. On the international stage, reactions to these developments have been mixed but largely cautiously optimistic. European leaders, including British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, have expressed their support for Ukraine, emphasizing the importance of sustained military and diplomatic engagement to uphold the principles of international law and to deter further aggression. At the same time, there is significant concern that the renewed ceasefire might be exploited by Russian forces to regroup and rearm, potentially prolonging the conflict. This concern is further amplified by historical precedents, where ceasefires in the region have often been short-lived and fraught with violations. The delicate balance of power in Eastern Europe, already strained by years of conflict, means that any change in the status quo is likely to have cascading effects on regional security dynamics. Moreover, the internal political implications within the United States cannot be overlooked. The recent disagreement between President Trump and President Zelensky underscores the complex interplay of domestic politics and foreign policy, raising questions about the long-term sustainability of US support for Ukraine and its broader strategic objectives in the region. For those preparing for competitive exams, it is crucial to grasp the key concepts and historical context underpinning these events. The Russia-Ukraine conflict, which began in earnest with the annexation of Crimea in 2014 and escalated with the 2022 invasion, represents one of the most significant geopolitical crises of the 21st century. The scale of military assistance provided by the United States to Ukraine is unprecedented, and the subsequent suspension and resumption of aid illustrate the challenges inherent in managing such a complex and protracted conflict. Understanding the roles of key figures, such as President Trump, President Zelensky, and Russian President Vladimir Putin, as well as the strategic importance of diplomacy and military aid, is essential for anyone looking to develop a nuanced perspective on the crisis. From a technical standpoint, the mechanisms through which US aid is delivered are also important to understand. The Presidential Drawdown Authority allows for the rapid deployment of military equipment from US stockpiles, while the Ukraine Security Assistance Initiative provides a framework for the direct purchase of arms by Ukraine from US manufacturers. These mechanisms not only facilitate a swift response to evolving battlefield conditions but also underscore the logistical and strategic challenges of maintaining a prolonged military engagement. The resumption of aid following the ceasefire agreement is a critical signal that the US remains deeply invested in Ukraine's defense and in the broader goal of deterring further Russian aggression. In conclusion, the acceptance of a 30-day ceasefire by Ukraine, coupled with the resumption of US military aid on 11 March 2025, represents a pivotal moment in the Russia-Ukraine conflict. This development highlights the complex interplay between diplomacy, military strategy, and international politics, and it offers a potential, albeit tentative, pathway toward de-escalation and renewed negotiations. The ceasefire, if successfully implemented by both Ukraine and Russia, could provide much-needed humanitarian relief and create a window of opportunity for more substantive peace talks. At the same time, the situation remains highly uncertain, with the final outcome dependent on Russia's response and the ongoing efforts of international mediators. For those studying current affairs and preparing for competitive exams, understanding the nuances of this development is essential, as it encapsulates many of the key themes of contemporary geopolitics: the challenges of conflict resolution, the strategic importance of military aid, and the delicate balance of power in an increasingly complex global arena. Answer this question in comments. The correct answer will be given hot and pinned. Lastly, we just want to let you know that we are a newly emerging online platform for competitive exams. Creating educational explainer videos like these requires a lot of effort, money, and time. If you like these videos and want us to excel and create videos in all categories of competitive exams, then you can consider supporting us with a one-time donation through the Ko-fi platform and also by becoming a member through Patreon. This will help us create more such informative educational videos in the competitive exams space. So, one last time, subscribe and share this channel with all your friends who are preparing for competitive exams. And also, follow us on social media platforms. The links are given in the About section of the channel and also in the video description. So, see you in the next video.